first step. And I'm going to list some of these up here. Creditors, a lot of people still don't get it. I'm just going to make sure I list it. So B of A, you guys get that. Nordstrom's, we talked about it with this lady. Wells Fargo. Collections. Public records. Etc. So these are just examples, but there's thousands of creditors. And don't be afraid to say that to the client. There's thousands of companies out there that report information to the three major credit bureaus. What are the names here?
TransUnion.
Yeah. These two I always got fumbled with. I couldn't get them, but try your best.
Sounds like Equinox, so it's like...
Yeah, it almost sounds like Equinox.
Yeah. There's like an EX and an EQ.
Right. Equa and...
Yeah, Equa and X...
It's okay. Experian and Equifax.
Experian, okay, that's right, yeah.
Practice those because these are really important. The minute you fumble that with a client, it's over.
Right.
It's literally like talking to an attorney that doesn't know the law that you're asking him to help you with. Like, you know, I got sued by somebody, I got hit by calling a personal injury attorney, and he doesn't even know, you know, a law that represents that. You're like, I don't know much about it, but I know I should know that. You should know that. So Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. All right, creditors, credit bureaus. Okay, so step one. This is the difference. So now we're kind of starting a new phase of the training because this is what we do. We call it a pre-litigation approach. Pre-litigation approach. You heard me say it to the lady. Approach. Used by... Yep. And this is very powerful. You heard how she reacted. Are you an attorney? You know, you don't have to be an attorney to do this. Don't be afraid to say that. No, we're not attorneys. In fact, most firms, like Lexington Law, that say they are, the people doing the paperwork are in the Philippines just sending out dispute letters. They really are. Probably going online nowadays because you can do it really easily online. Go to our website. We actually put the links right on our website where a client can dispute their own stuff. Why did I do that? Because I want people to just go there and do it? No. Because I want the clients to see how silly that is and how easy that is to do and how it doesn't work. I wouldn't have put it on our website if I wanted you to do that. I wanted you to see why paying $50 to $75 a month to a Lexington Law company versus doing it on your own is a waste of money. You're going to throw $50 to $75 a month away doing that versus just doing it on your own. You shouldn't do either of those. You shouldn't do it on your own and you shouldn't hire Lexington Law. Here's why you should enroll with us. And then I go into this. What we do differently is I'm going to write it here real cleanly, so hopefully it comes up on the video. We threaten creditors with a lawsuit and send a copy of FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act. We send that to the creditors from the client. I forgot to tell you guys, all of you have to do this in front of us, by the way. So what I'm doing here, you guys actually have to do this. Don't worry, not today, but within the next few days, you're all going to do this, and we're going to watch. And it's the only way you can really get the hang of this difference in the two different approaches is doing this. Just like has anybody ever heard a good joke? Heard a good joke? How many good jokes have you heard that you forgot?
So many.
Lots. Same here, right?
Yeah.
And it was always when I'm trying to tell it because it was a perfect time to tell that joke that I couldn't quite remember it. Yeah. You know, the only jokes I remembered are the jokes I told other people. You know what I mean? So when you get a good joke, the trick is to tell it right away to somebody else. Because the more you tell that joke, the more it becomes committed to memory. The more you guys do this with each other and in front of me, the more this becomes committed to memory for you versus watching somebody do it. I can tell you the same joke 10 times over and over and over. You're not going to commit it to memory. 2 weeks from now, I'll ask you what that joke was, and you'll be like, I forgot. But you tell that joke to 10 people, and watch how quickly you got that to memory. So it's the same here. So the first step now with this approach, the pre-litigation approach, I don't know if it's visible on the camera, is threaten the creditors with legal action and send them a copy of the Fair Credit Reporting Act to the creditor from the client. What does that mean? We actually send an 84-page copy of that law to the creditors, like this, and a letter that says, hey, you know, you reported me late on my Macy's bill in 2012 on May. I don't think I was late. I'm demanding, this is what you say to the creditor, I'm demanding that you provide documented proof that I missed this late payment and prove that you reported this late payment to the creditors according to this law. I've attached a copy of the law for proof, so you, Macy's, know I know what my rights are. How is Macy's going to think you don't know what you're talking about if you just send them a copy of the law? They might be like, okay, somebody just told them to send all this in, they don't know what they're talking about, so Macy's does verify these. It rarely happens because this is huge. I mean, this is a big deal going to the creditor versus doing what everybody does. 99% of the people trying to get stuff deleted are going this route. Okay, so we do that first. At the same time, we go to the credit bureaus and we send a request for verification, we call it. So maybe you want to write that down. Request number 2, we call it. I like to call it a request for verification because the minute you start saying we dispute, then they start assuming, oh, you're just doing the same thing these other guys are, and you don't. Request for verification, it's the same process from here forward as a dispute letter approach. So remember, step 1 was we asked the credit bureaus to look into the account. Step 2 was they start the 30-day oven timer. Step 3, the creditor has to respond in one way. And number 4 was they verify, they update the client. Well, that becomes step 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is step 1. So you see the difference? When you go to the credit bureaus and request for verification, you're really just going to the credit bureau saying, hey, you know, look into this. I don't think this is mine. I moved. We say the same things because the credit bureaus only allow you to say one of a few things to trigger them to be in action. The credit bureaus then go to the creditor and say, hey, the client's got a request about this account. We started our 30-day timer and verify it. What does the creditor do? They look it up in the computer again because remember, these things happen at 2 separate times. So the requests may come over after the creditor's already received thousands of other requests in the midst of the one that you sent with the packet. But they make a note on your case that, oh wow, this is that savvy client. She sent us this huge copy of the law. She's threatening legal action. She's talking about damages. They see that now when the request comes over from the bureaus. So they're less likely to respond in 30 days if they have to when they feel the client is a savvy client. Because why?
It'd be a waste of time if they end up in the wrong.
Well, let's just say the client really is going to pursue legal action. Could they be liable for damages?
Yeah.
So the creditor goes, wait a second, what if we messed up? What if this client wants to push the matter and hire an attorney and come at us? How much could we end up paying this person for an insignificant collection account or a late payment?
18.6 million.
Yeah, well that's the bureau, so there's a difference. So the creditors aren't going to pay 18.6 million in misreported fines. They pay thousands though. They could be upwards of 5,000-10,000 for a fine, misreporting information. So knowingly misreporting information, meaning mistakes that are consistently made by the same creditor and they're caught by the bureaus or by clients bringing this to their attention could cost the creditor tons of money and small fees. But at the end of the day, the credit bureaus are the ones that are ultimately liable for the big hit because we know, the government knows, these guys are the ones with the deep pockets. They're going to get as much as they can out of these guys to make an example out of them so the system keeps running the way it's supposed to. So the threat of legal action is the key difference between our approach and what 95% of the industry uses. So that's important to use in your pitch. Let me explain what I mean. So that's how I get into the story. The transition phrases are important to remember. I used one more in that that call with the lady. I transitioned into the Portland, Oregon story. You might have heard me say that. At the end of the day, the credit bureaus are the ones that are ultimately liable for anything on our credit report. That's my transition line there. Let me give you an example of a story that happened a few years ago. Are you in front of a computer? Google these keywords. So that was where I went into the story. If you don't say at the end of the day, the credit bureaus are the ones that are ultimately liable, let me explain what I mean. Let me show you that in real life. And you're not going to get into that story. It's going to sound forced or it's going to sound unnatural.
Like you're planning on it.
I had it all planned way before that call. I knew I was going to tell the story. I can get there a million different ways, but I always use that line to get there. So remember that. You can be talking about kids and blah, 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 and credit. I disputed all this stuff. It didn't work. Oh, let me tell you the difference between our approach and 95% of the industry, why that didn't work. And then, you see, these guys can be in trouble for misreporting information, which can cost them to pay tons of money.
But ultimately, the credit bureaus are responsible.
But at the end of the day, ultimately, the credit bureaus are the ones that are liable. They're the ones that have to pay the big money. They are the ones. Remember that. And here's why. Because remember, the first thing I said when we started training is in the law, what the law says, it's almost word for word, is the credit bureaus have an obligation to maintain only accurate and verifiable information about us, the credit bureaus. They have an obligation or a duty to only maintain a record of stuff that can be verified 100% as accurate and verifiable. And when you get into the word verifiable, that's where the 30-day timer is. So they have to verify the accuracy of the account within a reasonable amount of time, which they've deemed 30 days. So the credit bureaus are the ones that are ultimately liable for anything on our credit at the end of the day. So, at the end of this whole 4 steps, because we do 4, and then the 5th is the credit bureaus updating the client, what happens is, let's say we go after 10 or 11 negative items on the client's report and run it through this process, it just doesn't just magically wipe off all the stuff. Usually the first attack cycle, we do 4 rounds of investigations, but the first one, you're going to see some stuff come off. And then anything that did get verified, we go after it again. See, so when I said 4 separate times, you could have a Macy's account where you missed a payment and a collection and a car loan that repoed. We go after all of those and run the same cycle through. The only thing we don't do the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th time is this. You only threaten the creditor once. We only need to show the creditor you're savvy 1 time. This is a lot of money, plus not to mention there's no point in doing it every time. We already did it once, so when you show the creditor you're savvy, you can bet they're making a note on that account. The next time we go, the 2nd time, we're just doing the same dispute letter 4 times. See that? There's no reason to threaten them again and again and again, but there is a reason to keep going. No, I don't agree. You verified this. I don't believe it. It's not mine. Prove it. And they have to run this 4-step cycle again and again and again. Usually the credit bureaus are the ones that will put the brakes on. Usually the credit bureaus will put the brakes on after about 4 cycles, so 4 times. If they verify that the account is yours 1, 2, 3, 4 times, pretty much the credit bureaus will say, okay, dude, look, we proved it's yours. We verified it 4 times. We're not going to look into it again. And they'll do that. That's why we only do 4 cycles, because we want to take a break at the end if they verified something that many times. And you've got to wait 90 days. And then the credit bureaus will allow you to go after it. So there's a 90-day reset mechanism built into this whole thing. So you can attack this 4 times 1 account, and they'll verify it 4 times. Fast forward time 90 days, you can all of a sudden go after it again. But before that, trying to go after it again, the credit bureaus will say, no, we're not looking into it. So what do you guys think? You guys get a good understanding of this? This is the difference between our approach and the dispute letters. This took a lot longer, so I'm going to give you guys a break. Go get some air. And that was good information. Now what we'll do afterwards is probably just chat in a different room, because this is hot. So why don't you guys take a 10, 15, all of you, and then let me go find a spot where we can all continue some training. But
Just anywhere.
It's a lot
better
better.
than this room right now.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know what's going on with the air. We might do it out here. That's a good idea. Hey, go for it. Yeah, I'm gonna go check a few emails, so I'll meet you guys, let's say 15 minutes back here. Sound good?
Sounds good. Take this chair here and move right here.
What that is you're simply disputing whether or not the item belongs to you. And from, kind of hearing what you have to offer here, it sounds like these items actually do belong to you. Am I not mistaken? The items that are in your credit, they do belong to you, correct? Okay. Now, with these firms are going dispute letters to kind of dispute these items off, and the way they do it is, every time you send in a dispute letter to the credit bureaus, the creditors have 30 days to prove the item belongs to you.